Okay, so we're here with Laurie Puscas. She's running for Rochester Hills City Council District 2. So first of all, Laurie, just tell our readers why you're running and what you might hope to accomplish on City Council should you be elected.
Well, why I'm running is because I think that we need to have more checks and balances in our city. Overall, I think Mayor Barnett has done a nice job governing our city, and especially through these difficult economic times. He's been very proactive in keeping businesses and in retaining them and going out and bringing new business to the city. However, it's become apparent to me anyway that some other things can be done a little bit better. I think there are issues with the budget and also with just the interaction with the residents, and then also with the projects, some of them that they've introduced this past year, and it's a little disconcerting. So I think that even though he's doing a fine job in many ways, there are areas to improve upon, and it concerns me that the City Council in the last 4 years, a group of them who were endorsed by the mayor seem to always vote the same way. And we've done some calculations, gone back over the minutes, and taken a look at the voting record. And if you look at the gentlemen, and I do say gentlemen because it is all men on council, they have all voted the same 95 or 97% of the time. And I think it's not right that the other two gentlemen that are on the council, their votes and their input really it's null and void. They don't have any say, and the people who voted them into office then don't either. And so I think it's just really important to get an independent voice on council, someone who can take a non-prejudiced look at the issues, projects, and vote accordingly, and not just be a rubber stamp for the mayor. So I guess that's why I'm running.
Okay. Well, one of the big issues in Rochester Hills seems to always be our roads. I mean, we've got a big portion of Walton Boulevard closed down, and another issue obviously is paying for them. So, and I know that the road committee is looking at possibly a millage to help improve our roads. Would you be in favor of, even if it involved a tax increase of some kind, to or would you be in favor of a millage to fund our roads and make our roads in Rochester Hills better?
Roads are definitely an issue in Rochester Hills, and they're of great concern. I think at this time, I mean, I haven't seen anything on the details of a millage, but I would be very reluctant to agree to put forth a millage to add additional tax on our taxpayers right now. I think it would be better to take another look at the budget and make some cuts. If there are areas where we can make reductions, I mean, there's always two sides to a balance sheet. At least that's what they taught me back when I was in business school. So I think that there are areas such as, for instance, the pension for our city employees. I mean, there are people who are receiving 15% contributions to their retirement at taxpayers' expense, and I just think in this day and age that's just ludicrous. So that's just one small example, but I think there are areas where we can make cutbacks before we look at adding additional tax to our taxpayers.
In your press release that you announced your candidacy, you made a statement that you feel that some of the current leadership has been reckless with our tax dollars. Can you give us an example on how you might do things differently if you were elected to City Council? Absolutely.
I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is the water tower, water reservoir issue. This was a project that was introduced, and I don't think initially very many people knew about it, and that is one thing that I think needs to change. Is with the technology today and the avenues that are at our disposal, I think that we can communicate better to our residents. We definitely need a new website. It would be nice to have a sign outside City Council letting people know what's going on. But in this particular case, it was possible that the city council could spend up to maybe $20 million, which equates to a fifth of the annual budget on this reservoir project. And the whole idea was to save residents money on their water bill, which is not a bad idea. But if you took a good solid look at the business case for this, it just didn't add up. The fixed cost to the Detroit Water and Sewer, where we get our water, is 85%, and they have a failing infrastructure. I mean, they're going to need major input into this infrastructure. And I just think that the city didn't have any guarantee from the water department that there would be any reduction in our water cost. And to go forward with something like this, not ask the residents for their opinion on this project of this magnitude, and to borrow against capital fund reserves to do it, it just didn't make any sense. So you're going to spend $20 million, you have nothing that says you're going to save any money in the end. And unfortunately, it took hundreds of residents to turn up to city council meetings and protest, picketing outside, news crews. It just shouldn't take that. That is not representative government. It shouldn't take that for a city council to listen up to the residents and admit that maybe they've made a mistake. And unfortunately, it did cost the residents several $100,000 or more. I mean, who knows, because of all of the time and put in by the city employees on this project. It's really unfortunate, and they could have been, working on other things that could have been more worthwhile. So I think that's one example of recklessness.
It seems like, too, though, that particular debate was particularly rancorous, obviously. Mr. Hooper, when in his interactions with the residents, he seemed, even disrespectful at times. Do you think there needs to be a little bit more respect for the citizens when they take their time, they come to a meeting, and, just treat the citizens with more respect and allow them to have, a more polite conversation? That's one thing that Mr. Hooper doesn't allow, is any give and take usually between the citizens and the council.
I would have to agree that at times I thought Mr. Hooper's behavior was appalling. I just think that, people have busy lives. They have jobs, they come home, they have family, and when commitments, they have dinner, children, homework, kids' activities. I mean, let's face it, our lives are very busy. And when we take the time out of our lives to go to our city and express a concern, I think that the very least that people can be treated with dignity and respect. And I will admit that sometimes people can be emotional when they speak or upset, but I think it behooves our council to still treat people with respect and give them every courtesy and understanding, and to pay attention when they're talking. I mean, sometimes you could see that they're reading their computer screens or what have you, and they're not even looking or paying attention to the person who's at the podium, and I find that very unfortunate.
Another thing you talk about in your press release is transparency and accountability. So I guess I'd like to get our readers to be able to hear from you. What specifically do you mean by transparency, and what's maybe one thing that you would change and make more transparent, and how would you do it?
Well, I think that, again, goes back to communication. I think if people are aware of what's going on, they can become involved, they can read about issues. And I think, it was so disappointing. When the residents were asked to give their input on the paving of Washington Road, they met the people from the historic district, gave input, and the residents did. And I think people thought, wow, this is great. The city is asking us for our input. This is wonderful. But then when the report came out, they may have never as well been asked, because the report basically ignored almost everything that they suggested. I mean, for a road to be widened and to run through two historic districts, to raise the speed limit to 45 miles an hour, and to take away the no-through truck signs, I just can't imagine. These people were so upset, and understandably. They just felt like, okay, you asked us for our opinion, and our opinions were ignored. And when push came to shove, they said we'd rather have our road not paved than to do it the way that it was suggested by the road commission. And so that was very disappointing. And I think that if you give, if you ask people for their input, you should take it and use it in your projects. So.
Well, as a specific example, so how would you have made that situation better? And would you use email? I mean, the city has, I know they have, synopses of the meetings on their website. How would you make it more transparent and stay in better touch with the citizenry?
Well, it's very difficult to navigate the website right now. I mean, even to find out what's on a city council agenda or if there's a meeting, I mean, you have to know how to find that. It doesn't come up very easily. I mean, you have to click. First you have to click, government, and then you have to find city council, then you click again. I mean, it takes like 5 or 6 clicks, and that's if you know where you're going to find the city council meeting and the agenda. And I just think that ought to be right on the homepage. I mean, the meeting, click here for the agenda, so people can find these things easily. Why make people work for this? And I think people can sign up for emails, updates. I mean, I know that they have something now. If you sign up, you can get notices for emergencies or what have you. But why not send out, if people ask for it, an email with the agenda and what's going on, or a newsletter weekly, this is what's going on, these are the projects we're looking at with the planning commission or city council, whatever. It'd take a whole lot of work to keep people informed. It really doesn't. And I think the residents would appreciate that.
I know when I go to find information, you have to be more proactive, like you say, to go on the website and specifically look for, what you're doing. Are there any other issues that you think the mayor or the city council has handled badly that you would have a different way of going about them?
There are a lot of issues that have gone on throughout the year. I don't want to get into a lot of specifics. I think it's just important to realize that, issues do come up, and it's important to be able to work together and for everyone to give their input. And right now, that's not happening. I mean, there are 5 people on council. They're all individuals who are endorsed by the mayor, and they give their input. They're in the know as to what's going on, and the other 2 people are basically ignored. And it's so important to have checks and balances on council. I mean, that's the fundamental, groundwork to our our Constitution and the way America works. And when you have people voting the same all the time, it's just wrong.
Some people have made comments, there's been rumors and things that you're even too close to the mayor and you might be influenced by the mayor. Do you feel that, is that true? And, what's your feeling about whether you'll be influenced too much by the mayor, whether you'll be an independent voice on the council, things like that?
Bruce, I think that's a great question. One, I would like to say here and now that I think it is great that there are some other individuals running against the mayor in this race, because I think anytime there's discussion and people bringing out points or issues, it's a good thing. However, I will be endorsing Mayor Barnett to be our mayor once again. And I know that I will not expect his endorsement back, but that's okay. I think I am an independent voice. People who have followed me throughout my 22 years in Rochester Hills know that I'm not one to sit back and just take for people's word for granted. I do my own research, and I'm an independent person, and I speak my mind. However, it is important to work with people. I think that, one example, I'll tell you, my son was at the University of Notre Dame, and he had stayed for the commencement a few years ago when Obama came to speak. And of course there were people outside picketing, and he had stayed because he was performing in the Glee Club concert, and he also ushered at that commencement. And Obama's speech was rather interesting. I was curious as to how he might address the situation that was going on, because obviously there were some very strong feelings between some of his beliefs and some people who, in the Catholics and their beliefs. And I was actually quite impressed with what he said. You know, he said, I realize that we have an issue that many of us do not agree on, and it's something that is fundamental to us, and we just simply will not ever change our mind on. And he said, you know what? There are a lot of things that we do believe in, that we could work together in, whether it be poverty or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, and he said, let's come together on the things that we do agree on, and just go our own ways on the things that we don't. And I guess that's the way I want. To me, I don't want to be a divisive person. I don't want to be a person that people say, well, gee, we just can't work with her. We can't, she won't listen to anything. She won't, you know, engage in discussion. I just don't think that's the right way to be. I don't agree with everything the mayor does. And, you know, like I said, I'll be, once on council, suggesting that we reduce his pension contribution. I'm sure he isn't going to like that. And there are a number of other things. But that doesn't mean that we can't work together on things that we do agree on. And so if that means I'm a friend of the mayor's, you know, we're not friends. I mean, you know, I think we're just colleagues that would be working together. And I will say that my opponent is a person who is buddies of the mayor's, who has been very close with him since college. They're still good friends. He's endorsed him. I would assume that in his carpet bag, he will have a rubber stamp for the mayor. So when you're making choices, I would hope that you would look for an independent voice and not someone who is coming to town from another city to rubber stamp everything for the mayor.
Do you feel like if you were, let's say there was an issue that came up, let's use the water towers, water reservoirs as an example. If you came into that situation thinking, you know, that seems like a good idea, but someone came to you, residents came to you, maybe, you know, off the record, outside of a city council meeting, gave you documents, showed you, hey, this maybe isn't such a good idea. Do you feel like you're the kind of person that even though you started out in one position, you could change your mind and based on evidence that's presented to you and maybe vote another way in the end because there was evidence, not because there was just a lot of people yelling at you?
You know what? Information is always good, and the more information you have, the better. And if I believe in something to be one way and someone can bring me information that shows that it's another, and then I can verify that information and say, wow, this is great. You know, I'd be so pleased that someone brought it to me, and I am a person who will change their mind because you need to do what's best for the residents, and standing your ground and, you know, sticking your feet in and not budging is just not the way to go, because I've said this is the way I stand on it, and no, I would not do that. You have to be a reasonable thinking person and look at what you have as data and make a solid conclusion.
So you would make your decision based on information rather than perhaps ideology. Would that be another way to put it?
I would make my decision based on information and not on a buddy system, I guess.
Okay.
Just
to wrap up, just tell our readers your website.
My website is www.puscasforcouncil.com.
Okay, and it's just kind of a basic website. They can find out why you're running,
right.
How to help you. If they think you're a great candidate, they can contribute to your website, on your website.
Absolutely. You know what? It is a basic website. I'm trying to conserve my funds. I don't have the backing of the machine, if you will. So I do have to be careful with my money. But on there are links, and one is to my Facebook page, Laurie Puscas for City Council, and there's more information on there. And also there is a link to people who want to volunteer, help out with the campaign. That would also be wonderful. And then there's a button to contribute. I think there's a button maybe for LinkedIn. Obviously contact information. So yeah, that's all.
And you have a blog that you were doing.
I do have a blog
for a while too.
Yes, and that blog is still on the Oakland Press website, and it can be found there, or you can go to it directly at www.iepointofview.com. And the IE stands for Independent Expressions, which is the name of my business that I run.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Laurie.
Thank you.